Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Time Added On. My name is Alfredo Fumaces.
And I'm Cristiano Oliveira.
Every episode, 5 topics, 2 minutes each, everything that's hot in Benfica land. Here we go. Let's put some time on the clock. And our first topic is obviously the elections, which is the biggest topic in Benfica world as of late. Luis Felipe Vieira won by a resounding 63%, if I'm not mistaken. But there was much to be said about João Noronha Lopes.
Look, I think they all did a fantastic job in their campaigns. Rui Gomes da Silva, you got to mention him. He was credit to him. I got to say, a lot of people gave him absolutely no chance. A lot of people thought he should have just stepped down or should have just joined another campaign. And look, the guy's a Benfiquista through and through, and he went to the very end. Obviously, things didn't pan out for him. Noronha Lopes did a fantastic job. A lot of the younger Benfica fans really, agreed or sided more with what his vision of Benfica is. And then obviously Luis Vieira, the guy who's been around since 2003, and as you said, resounding victory, 63% of the votes. He's going to be our next president, or I should say, he's our president for the next 4 years, and we have to respect that.
Yeah, Noronha Lopes, who had just introduced himself to the majority of the Benfiquistas maybe about 3-4 months ago, while Rui Gomes da Silva had been an avid critic of Luis Felipe Vieira for quite some time now, for a couple of years. So I'm surprised that Noronha Lopes, even with as late as he got into these elections, that he was able to gather that much strength behind him. But nonetheless, Luis Felipe Vieira, clear victory. I don't think there was any contest in terms of the his opposer, his running adversaries, if you will. He won across every demographic, even in the popular vote.
He did, but you must be said. It must be said that this was the lowest percentage that he won by.
Yes,
the
difference.
which the lowest. No, not just that, but it's 62% or 63% of the votes, the lowest he's gotten in any of his elections. So I think the fans spoke loud and clearly. I think some that are unhappy with what's happened with Benfica here over the last 4 years, especially with the last mandate, have voiced their opinion. Noronha Lopes showed up with the younger crowd, with the younger fans behind them, and things will be interesting over the next 4 years. Let's hope Luis Felipe Vieira sticks to what he says. Let's hope he's a man of his word. Let's hope that the next 4 years Benfica demolishes every competition in Portugal. And at the end of the day, whether it was Noronha Lopes, Rui Gomes da Silva, Luis Felipe Vieira, at the end of the day, we're all Benfiquistas. We all need to unite, and we got to look past it now.
Absolutely right. So Luis Felipe Vieira did say it was his last 4 years, and then he's looking to groom Rui Costa, if you will, to be the person that succeeds him. But we shall see. Next up, but the elections weren't without controversy.
Well, obviously before, I was wondering where you were going with that. Yeah, obviously a couple of days before that, Bernardo Silva, as we all know, we all love Bernardo, Portuguese national team number 10, silky, left-footed, passionate Benfiquista. The guy has no problem letting the world know that he adores Benfica. And he started a little bit of controversy. Obviously, penned a letter. Letting people know what his opinion is of the current situation at Benfica with Luis Felipe Vieira, and pretty much saying that he was behind Noronha Lopes and he envisions the Benfica that Noronha Lopes himself envisioned.
Well,
pretty much.
I mean, he didn't come out and say Noronha Lopes. He
Well,
did, but the biggest thing in his letter, and it's a well written letter, and there's a lot of people that accuse Bernardo Silva of spitting on the hand that fed him, right? But I think, as Cristiano mentioned, everyone knows that Bernardo Silva is a Benfiquista. He penned that letter as a Benfiquista, not as a former Seixal product, not as a former Benfica player. I would like to think not even with resentment for anything that had been done to him
Towards him.
Benfica, right?
Absolutely.
And his biggest thing is, without coming straight out, is said the biggest thing is that Benfica needs a change. Enough of what's been going on with the club, the legal processes that the club is involved in, some of the controversy that Benfica is involved in, the OPA offering that was voted down by the CMVM because apparently there was some illegalities with it. So he just said, I think it's time for a change, and people really took that
And the way I
to heart.
took it, listen, the way I took it was, look, he mentioned every million and one reasons as to why he thinks that the current presidency needed to be changed, right? And the way I read the letter was he was backing Noronha Lopes. And, whether you admitted it, you opened it or not, that's the way I read that letter. And obviously, Benfica, the Benfica world, a lot of people that support Luis Vieira were unhappy. Luis Vieira himself was not happy. Jorge Jesus had some things to say in a post game press conference, which I tell you, Alfredo, I didn't really have a problem with. I know a lot of you people, as you just mentioned, Bernardo Silva spoke as a Benfiquista, not as a former player. And when JJ answered him, he answered him as the former Benfica player, as the former player that played under his management. And I just think that JJ got caught up in a moment. Look, Bernardo has thrown his jabs over the years at JJ, and this was his opportunity to finally answer. So I think, look, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Yeah. I get it. One guy's just a paid member of the club. Maybe he should have hesitated a little bit more or not, but at the end of the day, they're all humans. It was a heated time. I just think that we all need to put this past us, and we all need to unite as Benfiquistas because, Benfica united is a stronger Benfica than one divided.
I agree. Next topic, the injured fullbacks. And while we thought in our podcast, and you hear us all the time talking about the quality of Benfica's fullbacks, now we have two injuries that we have to deal with. Almeida, the more severe one, he looks like he's going to be out for a while. And then we had Grimaldo.
Yeah, Grimaldo obviously picked up that injury against B-Sad, Valence-Sad. What's the other one?
Comporta,
Code City, Comporta, whatever you want to call these guys nowadays. Picked up it looked like an ugly injury at first. You weren't sure if it was Achilles tendons. You wasn't sure if it was a high ankle sprain, if you broke an ankle. You weren't sure what was going on, but you started to really fear for what was coming next. And obviously, this was on the back of Andre Almeida, as you mentioned, tearing his interior and his ACL, ACL, MCL, PCL, whatever you want to call it, all his ligaments on his knee the prior game. So in back-to-back games, Liga NOS games, I should say, both Benfica starting fullbacks were injured. We thought it was going to be a lot worse than anticipated. Gilberto came in for Andre Almeida, and then Nuno Tavares came in for Grimaldo, and they've actually played really well. So credit to them.
Yeah, they haven't. And our worst fears was always, well, if Almeida gets hurt, and not that there's a lot of fans of Almeida out there, if Almeida gets hurt, what happens? Yeah. And then if Grimaldo gets hurt, what happens? Are we going to play with the Tavares kid, right? But look, JJ has found a way. Last game, Gonçalves played that right back, and he did all right. I don't think he was anything exceptional, but he didn't compromise anything.
No, not at all. I know the newspapers gave him a 7 out of a 10, so he got a little bit lucky. Could have gotten a red real late in the second half. But you know what? For his very first game at right back for the Benfica world, I thought it was a spectacular debut for him.
Yeah, and he played his first game for Benfica in match day 2 of the Europa League. And Cristiano, quite a contrast in the Europa League or European campaigns between what we have seen in the past 4 or 5 years and what we're seeing this year. And granted, it's the Europa League. Right?
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, granted, one is, I can't even remember the first, Poznan. What was the name of the team? Poznan, and now we played Standard Liège, as we spoke on our Benfica podcast, the team that's got a lot of European history, but not exactly one of the sharks in today's football. And Benfica did exactly what they should have done, what we all anticipate they do in these games, and we scream and holler about this on the Benfica podcast for years. When Benfica plays these teams that don't have the ability to stick with them, they have to absolutely demolish them. I know Benfica didn't exactly bury them, but I thought it was a dominant performance. Benfica barely let them get out of their own half for long stretches of the first half, and Benfica just went on to a very comfortable 3-0 win. But Alfredo, this is what we all expected when JJ came back. This well-oiled machine, once it gets going, it's like the comboio. And once it starts going, you're not going to be able to stop it.
Yeah, no, I think that, and in essence, when you're looking at these two games and you're looking at the statures and the reputations of the teams involved, Benfica, Poznan, Benfica, Liège, on paper, Benfica is the better team. And I think this also translated onto the field. So even though Benfica didn't just play them out of the park, the stature and the quality of the team itself I think was enough, and it reflected the stature of the club itself.
No, absolutely. And again, Alfredo, we talk about this all the time. Benfica has to impose their will on everybody else. Benfica has to gain that respect from the opposition. And this is how you start it. You start gaining respect by demolishing the weaker competition. And obviously, it's early. JJ's been here 4 months. It's not year 3. Things are only going to get better. But at least we should all be very happy that they're taking care of their business. They're taking care of the teams that they should have no problem with, and they're making it look easy. I understand some things sometimes have to go their way, but that's part of being a good team. Good teams beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, and this is exactly what they're doing under JJ, and I couldn't be happier.
Yep. Next topic, the captain's armband, which seems to have come under a lot of scrutiny. So JJ comes in, and look, Cristiano, and oftentimes games kind of imitate real life, right? And one thing, as you take over in Football Manager, one of the first decisions that you make as a coach is who you're going to give the captain's armband, and then your decision may influence the chemistry of the team. I don't think this is the case, right? But certainly as a new coach, and with the season started, he's not doing this in the middle of the season. JJ felt that Otamendi would be the right bearer for the captain's armband.
Hey, Alfred, I got to be honest. At first, when I seen, because I didn't even realize that he was wearing it. When it was brought to my attention, I realized that he was wearing the captain's armband in the second half there. I kind of like glanced for a second, and I paused. And then started to really think about it, like, wait, maybe the Jan Vertonghen. And then obviously started questioning Grimaldo, these guys on the field. And then after the game, I thought JJ did a spectacular job. All these guys have their, JJ knows these players better than we do. He shares the locker room with these guys. He sees the leaders that these guys are on the field and off the field. And he gave a very reasonable explanation. The guy has experience in European football. This is sub-captain of Argentina, captain of Manchester United, a guy with tremendous tons of experience, a guy that speaks the language. Obviously, you can make the same argument for Jan Vertonghen, but you can't dispute he doesn't speak Portuguese. And I know you could argue with me that Otamendi doesn't speak perfect Portuguese, more that Portuñol, whatever it is. But, he's been in the country. He understands it a lot more. And this is a guy that has the respect of everyone in the locker room. And so I think at the end of the day, it wasn't a sexy pick. At the end of the day, it was going to be a very hot topic in the Benfica world because of his past ties to Futebol Clube do Porto. We all knew that was going to happen. But that being said, as you guys know, that are watching this and listen to the Benfica podcast, I'm a huge JJ guy. And so, in JJ, I trust. And if that's the guy he thinks is the best option to be captain and to take this team forward and grab him by the throat, just like, Ruben Diaz would have done if he was still here, look, I'm going to put my trust in JJ.
Yeah, look, the traditional method is obviously the player that has leadership characteristics, but also has the tenure at the club. I don't doubt that Otamendi has those leadership attributes or traits. Hasn't been at the club for too long, but that goes out the window, right?
This is a whole new team. I mean, from Darwin, Waldschmidt, Everton, Pedrinho. I mean, with the exception of 3 or 4 guys, it's a whole new team. Then Andre Almeida starts picking up injuries. Obviously, you could have made the argument for Pizzi, but look, JJ, I thought he did a phenomenal job of explaining after the game that he's not about the longevity. Some coaches are, but every coach in the world does things their own way. And JJ's way is, look, I'm going to look at my guys who I think are the best leaders in the locker room, regardless of tenure, regardless of where they come from. He just thinks that Otamendi is a spectacular person as far as leadership, and I can't argue with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, he has the international pedigree.
Absolutely.
National team players, has played in the biggest leagues in the world. Mm-hmm. So it's a mute point for me, and I don't even think it's a reason for concern or for even an argument. And that's it. That's all we got for you on this episode. My name is Alfredo Tomas.
And I'm Cristiano Oliveira.
Thank you for checking us out. Don't forget to check out BenficaIndependente.com, where you can find all the latest podcasts, all the latest opinion articles, and there's also an iCal for Benfica, where you can download Benfica's calendar onto your phone if you have OS or if you have Android, and it will give you everything: pesca, snooker, handball, basketball, all of that. So check it out, and don't forget to support. And thanks again, and we'll talk to you again next time.
Carrega Benfica.